7:13 PM on Wednesday, September 4th, and I'll call the Finance Committee meeting to order. We have in the room Peter Twining, Tom Parkins, Maury Creighton, Dean Nahadas, Andy Olderman, and myself, Sarah Mellish.
I'm here remote, Sarah.
Mike Pratt's on the phone. Thank you, Mike. The first order of business is to elect a chair and vice chair. As people are probably aware that we appoint them at the beginning of each year, and I neglected to have it on the July agenda. So here we are, September, and we need a chair and a vice chair. I'm willing to continue unless somebody would like to do it.
Please do.
I wasn't quick enough.
Andy, would you like to continue as vice chair?
Nobody else has an interest on
It's fine with me as is.
Second.
All in favor?
We'll take a vote. Peter,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Andy,
Yes.
Dean,
Yes.
Maury, and
Yes.
Sarah votes yes.
Mike.
And Mike votes yes.
Mike votes yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
And on the agenda is the MBTA Communities Act fiscal analysis. I sent something out very late this afternoon to people to kind of get them a sense of what we're being asked to do. We've formally been asked by the planning board to do this. The town is not able to get one in time for town meeting from RKG Associates. So what's happening is RKG Associates is doing a propensity to develop plan, which is supposed to look at the zoning changes, look at the existing housing stock, determine number of new units, and determine the speed with which those units might be built. Given that information, which I think is due the end of this month. I think that report's due the end of this month. And so then, given that report, that will give us that baseline data of units in order to construct a fiscal analysis report. And this sample I gave you, you know, what we found when we did CST study was fire and police weren't really impacted. My guess is that's kind of the same, except perhaps with the development up in the LCD. So it appears as if, and then I can work with the assessor to get valuation numbers from her, have her come up with a square footage for us so we can do that calculation. And then the school information we should have. Now, I noticed in this study that they use an incremental calculation for the student school costs. So that may be something we need to consider. They used, I want to say 68%. They used 13.3. What did they use? They used 12,128, 58%. Yeah. And I suppose we could contact the school once we have that data and kind of get a sense from them as to what the incremental impact might be. So does this seem feasible?
So what's the delivery date on this?
What's the student multiplier? What multipliers? The next box. What is that? I don't.
Oh, that was a calculation they did as to number of studios, 1 bedrooms, 2 bedrooms, and 3 bedrooms, and the assumed, no, it's on the page before. The SAC is the student ratio per unit.
Okay.
And then they use that, and we had done something with the SLV. Had done some type of a calculation, and I think what we did with the SLV, and we can do it more updated, is looking at the total population and the percentage of students,
Mhm.
that type of thing, and how many people might live in the units and therefore the increase in population and what that might be. As a,
We did it kind of like the way they've set it up here, where we
Okay.
said single bedrooms were like no potential for kids. 2 bedrooms, we had so many out of the total, and 3 bedrooms, we had a few more out of the total, and that's how we got to the 90 kids in the school system.
Can I-
6 years ago or something.
Mike?
Yeah, just quick comment, because I mean, a lot of it's just math, right? It's just running, but so really the only subjective input that really drives is that, subjective on the number of SAC, school age children, right, per unit. And I'm just looking at the numbers that they used, and they look to me like really conservative. So that's just my one comment there.
Yeah, I think perhaps we can recircle back around what was done with the SLV and just kind of get a sense as to what assumptions we made for that and see if it's still realistic. We've lost a lot of students in Manchester without losing population, I think. So the numbers might be lower than what was done with SLV, but it's worth looking at. But I agree, theirs look unusually low. That was my assumption. Okay. So how do we address this?
My first thought was to come up with a punch list of items, but the real cranking of the numbers, I mean, don't we have people in the assessor department or the treasurer's department? I mean, employees, town employees that might be able to do some of this crunching.
Yeah. No, I think that I certainly can meet with the assessor
Right.
and
ask them,
get this, the value per square footage, which will give us the projected real estate taxes.
Do you feel that there's a lot of writing that's required, or can we be
We just
more
plug the numbers.
abbreviated and,
I think we can be somewhat more abbreviated. I think that this study for Needham, excuse me, contains a lot of information on commercial versus residential, because I believe they have a different rate. And we don't have that issue. We
don't
have-
a problem of a commercial.
We have just residential. We are trying to get a study, a feasibility study. Economic feasibility study is being done to determine whether we can include a 20% affordable. Which would only impact where there are 5 or more units. So it seems to me that somehow we need to come up with baseline numbers before we have that report. And then once the report comes, be able to plug in the numbers, right?
Mhm.
Greg,
Greg in the car.
Greg Federspiel.
He might
He's in
be
the
muted.
tunnel.
You're muted, Greg.
Yeah.
There we go, sorry.
No problem.
Yeah, sorry not to be there.
We needed you.
Yes, I'm glad you got it working. So you should have both reports by the end of next week,
Oh,
with
great.
it- with any luck.
Okay.
So they are getting those done for us, and we should be able to help pull together the various numbers that then can be plugged in.
Okay.
What if we just use this as a template, skin down the parts that aren't relevant to Manchester and start from there? And
Yeah.
it might need a little bit of explanation around the edges, but this looks like it's a good template to start from.
Right, and I think that they explain their assumptions and they talk about the incremental, the phasing. something about only needing. Only. 57, projecting only 57 parcels to redevelop. So. I mean, I think that when they've done the numbers. The total density comes to like 589, but it's more like 200 plus units that would be new.
So sort of reading between the lines here, that the end fiscal impact they're looking for is what is the impact of revenue for the town in the area of real estate taxes and
CPA and vehicle excise taxes.
vehicle
anyway.
excise,
Yeah,
so people related revenue and real estate related revenue. And then on the expense side, it's really police, fire, DPW impact, town hall impact, and predominantly school impact.
right. Right,
So those are kind of the big pieces.
so I think that we really need the report to sit down with fire chief and police chief to say, okay, given this report, this propensity to develop, do you think there's an impact on your department regarding staffing? Right?
Calls and the like in terms of that impact, that's the impact you're looking for, number of.
Well, it's, you know, the thing about this zoning in Manchester is it's in areas where there's already housing.
Yes,
So if the police are doing their runs through, that doesn't change their runs.
right, that's why I just called, I mean, just, you know,
But if there, when we did the CST one, the projected calls resulted in no additional staff being required.
We just did it as a ratio of population.
I assumed, I was gonna just ask that question.
Yeah.
Yes,
Same with
ratio.
SLV is we just said, okay, 5,800 people, our current number of calls and budgets. What happens if we add another 300, another 500? So it's pretty much straight line math.
Yeah, so I think that, you know, I can meet with Michelle, the appraiser, and just kind of see if she can come up with a square footage assumption. I think she's in the middle of doing assessments for this upcoming year. And if I can tell her the areas,
Mhm.
I'd be willing to take a crack at this if we can get somebody to
Okay.
help, maybe two of us
okay,
to do this.
I can work on it.
So some of the, like the police and fire seems pretty straightforward because we need 16 for minimum staffing anyway, so, you know, that, there's not gonna be a lot of increase there. The schools have said they would be more efficient per student with more students. So that's where the 0.58 comes, whether it's 0.58 or 0.75, I don't know. But to me, the tougher thing is like a lot of our roads are outdated and narrow and intersections only work at ultra low volumes. And what kind of congestion improvements, you know, are we gonna need to, so people can still get out of their driveways and that type of thing?
Well, I think
should-
that will come out of that report as to where they expect the buildings to occur. And how many, you know, what the density will be.
That might be some of the more tougher things to try to get a finger.
And are we talking like, you know, like the kinds of development that's, you know, in town across from Crosby's, you know, behind the Richdale?
Yeah, so the, one of the districts is Pine Street. And on Pine Street, they put a cap of 5 units per lot. So you're not gonna have more, and I think they have a cap of 3 units in a building. So you're talking a building for 3 units and 1 for 2 is the max. At the Newport Park, they're allowing up to 4 stories and that has higher density. Presumably that would still be elderly. And then at Powder House Lane, Elm Street, that goes to 4 stories with higher density. That's already, Powder House Lane is already very dense. And then you have, Summer Street where the existing 10 and 12 is, and you've got, a small portion of C Street. C Street, they've capped it at 4 units per lot. So you theoretically could have Stanley's Garage and Richdale or Seabreeze, whatever the name is, sold, and that could be developed. But it's based on the size of the lots. So it's a density of 15 units per acre.
So if you rolled up all the potential lots and rather than trying to figure every single one of them down to a gnat's eyelash,
Right.
you said, let's try and do the 80-20 thing here. Let's just figure out where the biggest hit is, maybe the top 80% or the top 65%, extrapolate the balance. So that helps with your revenue projection,
Well, and RKG is
And-
gonna be doing that for us.
which is great.
Yeah. The propensity to develop study should be saying how much is
Yeah.
likely to be built. And the biggest potential is the Cape Ann storage. And that's capped at 100 units. Could come down a little bit, they're still juggling numbers. And I don't know how they calculate the propensity. Obviously, property owner has to sell. For it
Things
to
like the maximum possible, I mean, if you take it this, to give the overall maximum impact, don't you just assume everything?
No, they're doing a calculation and I'm gonna leave it to them to do whatever they do.
Have they put a time scale on any of this? Is there
They
a
should
report,
be.
for example, like
That's-
over the next 12 years?
That
or the
should be
next
in their
25
report.
years or
Yeah,
something?
it should be in their report as to a timeline.
Yeah.
As to when the development's likely to occur.
So part of our cost analysis and revenue analysis
Maybe-
is probably like
Phase.
regressing out.
Right,
10% the first 2 years and
whatever, yeah,
30% in the next 6 or something like that.
Yeah,
Some ratio
right.
of-
yeah. Okay, okay,
The biggest change I would see is in the vertical allowance, and that's where the density is gonna be.
well, all the other, except for Powder House Lane and Newport Park and the Brady property, the
Those
Cape
are the
Ann
big
storage,
4-story,
everything else will be 2.5 stories.
the
As it
same
is
as
today,
is.
yep, as it is
Yeah.
today. So that limits
Yes.
what people can do.
So Sarah, the 2 reports that are coming are, what are they called?
I don't know. Greg, do you know what those 2 reports are called?
Well, there's the report on the affordable housing component.
Okay.
And whether or not the economics of town real estate can justify the 20% affordable rather than 10%.
An economic feasibility, I think.
So it's right, it's an affordable housing economic feasibility analysis.
Yeah.
And then the second one is the propensity for development. So that's studying the projected rate of growth.
Propensity comes with a timeline in it.
I could look to see if I have the copy of that old report that we did for the SLB, because that would have a lot of.
Oh, I have that.
Oh, I have.
That
Yeah.
would be
That's right.
almost a good template, right? Because
Yeah,
we know the calculations behind that.
Well, those were assumptions made
At that.
5 years ago,
Yeah.
but
right.
yeah, but that's useful.
It might help in converting this to a town.
And we can
This one-
use this as a template.
Even this is great template. That is, there's more here than we would probably have to put in. so
Right.
We could use it as a template, and scale it down.
Okay,
Is there, because as Mike pointed out, the numbers might be appear to be kind of low for school age children, and I recall that was our same take when we were looking at that SLV report that came from their side. But at the same time, what the hell do we know? I guess I would be curious to compare their numbers back to the report that was done, for the SLV project. They might simply be sort of standard numbers that are expected for that kind of project.
So there were like data points, and I remember ours was probably more conservative. And I can look it up, but like at 92 to like 105 students. And I think the SLV economic thing said, oh, it'd probably be like 13.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
somewhere in between is where we land, But like the CST thing, it's one envelope here, one envelope there. It's probably.
So they used the 2017 Residential Demographic Multipliers Report from Massachusetts, the actual SAC ratios from existing multifamily properties in Needham.
Yeah.
Well, that will be a challenge for us. And a proprietary list of residential development projects and SAC ratios that RKG has compiled from communities around the greater Boston region.
But these numbers too look low.
Yeah. So, but we can go back and look at what we did on the other one. And but we have fewer students now. Right? And we have a report, I believe it's in is it in this report? That has, so this report has population by age group. That's the budget book, which gives us some sense of, So I don't know where this came from. It must come from the census. So maybe we can get something from this year's census that will give us,
Andrew would probably know that.
is Andrea on? No. I don't see her. Yeah, so maybe we can get that. Okay.
And this is due when again, sir?
Greg, when do you think we need this?
Well, if we're able to get it done by mid-October, I think that would be a good,
Mid-October.
a good target date to aim for.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
I mean, I get that RKG basically just said no, right? Like, then that is what it is. They're too busy or whatever. But I mean, isn't there other consultant firms or like that would be able to cover in the place of RKG? I mean, and again, like, right, I don't like spending money for the sake of spending money, but it just seems like an independent, unbiased, impartial expert group that does this stuff is, I mean, no offense to any of us, we're all smart people, but I don't know. I just
That's a fair point.
That's really good.
I don't know if they're the only game in town locally.
I wouldn't think they're the only
Response
game.
to
right?
that?
So I believe Mark Resnick, town planner, has contacted other consultants. I'll double check with him. But I know that with 177 communities doing this all at the same time, the consultants are very busy and overbooked.
Money talks with consultants usually, but yeah, I get it.
Right, right.
Greg, do you know if other towns have made their reports public?
Yes,
Is that available? Because that would be helpful too here,
but that's this Needham one.
right?
Right, we can certainly try to collect other samples.
What more are you thinking about a community more like us?
Yeah, I mean,
Smaller than Needham.
if somebody like a Cohasset or Hingham or one of our peer groups is
Yes.
already completed this and brought it onto their website for a town meeting pending, could we, look at that?
Yeah, let us take a look at that, see what other reports we can find.
Okay, yeah.
Tom, I think you had a link to need, was it, somewhere, the capital plan? Holliston, was it Holliston? From that meeting, that seminar you went to last November. And it was in there, it was like a sample, I'll look, I was looking at those.
Mike, do you recall that? Mike,
Sorry, I was on mute. Yep, what's up?
do you recall that municipal meeting we went to?
Yeah, the one down in Sharon, right?
Was there something similar to that? Is that what you're asking, Dean?
Well, there was a capital analysis report.
But that, what does that have to do with this?
I think it has a lot of the same parameters.
Well, I mean, I think high level, yes, I think it'd be helpful to go to more of these meetings to just connect and write peer analysis, but I'm not sure from a timing perspective that it gets exactly what we're looking for here. I don't know.
Okay, let's see what Greg can come up with for us.
Yeah, and I'm also meeting with a consultant on another project, and they may be able to help give some guidance on this one as well. I'm having that meeting on Monday.
Okay, great. Okay. So Andrea sent us information on the fiscal year 24 year-end report. Do people have questions on that? Comments? We need to examine it more.
Well, I'm looking at the reserves free cash and stabilization. So the actuals are interesting, are generally a little more favorable than the forecast. Can we expect that same trend this year? Right, can you react to that? Can you hear me?
Yeah, so we're,
Well, I'm looking at the
So,
actuals are blank.
right, but that, because they're blank because it's not certified yet.
I understand
And
that.
then she gave us that information on the other report. The
So
actuals.
when does the certification process complete? I
End of
agree.
fall.
Oh, not until the fall, okay.
But she gave us, I think the other sheet she gave us.
See, this is the
Was it
estimate.
this one?
right, she showed you the
Yes, she gave you the estimate.
total revenues, right?
Yep.
So, I mean, again, we're
So-
less conservative, but we're still taking in more than what has been projected. And I would expect that to happen in the current fiscal year as well.
Yeah, okay, that seems to what routinely happens, so I want to confirm it, like.
It's getting closer and closer, but
Right, that's what I was, I mean, we've really, I'd argue, tightened up, right? Because the difference from
correct.
actual to forecast is much, much, much tighter than in prior years, which in my opinion is a good, right? I mean, you're never gonna hit the nail right on the head, right? But, you
Right.
know, the tighter you get, the better.
So it makes sense that I think that this spreadsheet for the fiscal report has a tab on revenue. So we can use this when we're doing the next year's budget to kind of track back to say, okay, these were the estimates this last year and this was the difference. Do we want to tighten it up
That's
anymore?
right.
Right?
Correct, yes.
And that investment income still is the, I don't know. Wild card. We'll have to talk about that more later when we get into doing the budget. That investment income piece.
Do we know what that last item on the MISC recreational, non-recreational pilot? That we got 282,000 and we were expecting 58. That was under local receipts. That was the one that stuck it, jumped out.
Do you know, Greg, why that was so high? I think there was something that came in unexpected.
The last number,
Yeah,
yeah, the sale of the old ladder truck. And then is one of the big numbers in there.
okay.
And then we also have the reimbursement from the school for the SRO. So we can anticipate that now that that's pretty locked in.
Okay, so everything else looked like a pretty good estimate.
Yeah, so when we do the next budget, we'll just have to see if there's anything else we're selling. Right? Okay. Okay. It looks like for the next few agenda items, I don't exactly have the right fiscal year. I'm really talking fiscal year 26, not 25. Oh, I was having a rough day. So the next item on the agenda is fiscal year 26 budget liaisons. And I think kind of the discussion we wanted to have was, do we want the liaisons to spend more time on the budget piece with whoever they're liaisoning with, to actually get feedback and bring it back to the finance committee before we get to the actual budget piece? In other words, if there's things sticking up, should that be brought back so that we can discuss it earlier rather than later? To kind of help with the speed along the budget process? I don't know if that makes sense or not, or if it's too complicated or too time consuming.
I think that would be good, because otherwise it's sort of a done deal. And we sit and complain about it, as
Yeah.
opposed to, why is this so much more than last year? And does it make sense?
You mean to do that before their budget is formed?
I guess,
Does
is that what you
the
mean?
Yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
in the fall, before the budget is actually put together in the
Put
budget
together,
book.
Yes. Yeah, I think it'd be valuable.
Does that make sense, Greg?
Well, it can, but it's all about timing.
Yeah.
So if you want that, we've always presented the preliminary budget, third week of December, say, second, third week of December. So that means flagging some issues in October. Which is doable. It just means all of the liaison meeting in the next few weeks to get that process going.
When are the departments expected to hand in their budgets?
Typically,
To you, for the initial,
Oh, I see what you're saying.
yeah. 'Cause
right,
that's
so
on a review.
usually department heads need to get to me their initial requests by early November.
Really November.
And that I'm meeting with them through November and finalizing the preliminary budget, Thanksgiving, week after Thanksgiving.
Well, maybe that's the time then, because department heads need time to really kind of formulate their needs. So October, I think, would be too soon.
Yeah, so we can, in the past, for example, we have had the department heads meet with me and the liaison, one of you, as we sit down to review that preliminary request. And at that time, that would be November, where you could flag some potential issues.
And bring it back to the finance committee, I think the piece that's missing is the liaisons are meeting when that budget's being developed, but nothing's really being brought back to the finance committee to get everyone to react on it.
On issues that are then coming up in the development process.
Right. Not, not the routine stuff, but anything that's kind of a little,
Unusual. or
Unusual.
Substantial change, one way or
right.
the other.
Does that make sense, Greg?
Yes, yeah, so if that discussion can happen, right around Thanksgiving time, obviously the holidays there, but we would need that feedback, early December at the latest in order to incorporate it into the preliminary budget proposal.
So what if we, for example, had our liaison meetings in early November or mid-November, when Greg has received the budgets from the various departments? And then we try to have a line item in one of our agendas toward the latter part of November or very early December to sort of say, our early liaison looks have come up with these comments, these thoughts on DPW, these thoughts on fire, these thoughts on police, whatever. And push that to Greg, and then he has a chance to kind of review that with the group, their group, before it all gets into print, and then of course it's.
Is that early enough? When does it turn into print? Greg, when does it?
December, when we meet.
Okay, but I was just saying, when in December?
Yeah, it's really, it all comes together very last minute in a sense. We're
Okay.
printing the 2 days before the meeting.
It's really gonna be a no.
And that meeting is usually mid-December, right? It's not like the 15th or somewhere around the middle of the month.
Yeah, we're,
With the 18th is, well,
right,
yeah, 18th would be a Wednesday,
So if we try to get.
third
there
week of
the
December.
First week of December, back to Greg.
Yeah,
So liaisons meet with Greg and various department folks early November. And then we try to make sure we get comments to him first week of December.
right.
And it's and that gives Greg time to go back to various department heads and say, hey, we're getting a little kickback on this item or that item. What do you think?
So what finance committee meeting would that be?
12/4.
That's early enough for him to do.
Yeah.
That's the first
I was
Wednesday in December.
That's early enough for Greg though.
Yeah.
yeah, that could work. If I could make it. When's Thanksgiving? Is Thanksgiving the week before, or is there a week in between there?
Week before is Thanksgiving.
Yeah, okay, all right.
I believe Thanksgiving is the 28th.
So it's a little later this year. Yep, okay.
Isn't it the fourth Wednesday?
So
Thursday, yeah.
Yeah.
Thursday, sorry. Yeah,
Yeah.
28th is the fourth Thursday. So it's late.
Thanksgiving is right, 28th.
Okay,
So we've always had this conversation that, it is police, fire and DPW that are, the primary focus and.
and there's also town hall, I think, if there's gonna be staffing changes, and there's always stuff cropping up in town
Well, we
hall.
can kind of catch up with Greg on that, sort of directly, But where I'm going is.
Yeah.
It could be helpful to pair up. On
Okay.
those bigger departments, so that we have
Two,
more than one person's perspective on
Okay.
a conversation that happens.
that makes sense.
Yes.
Isn't that really it? Police, fire, DPW, and town hall? I miss Harbor.
He's kind of saying police, fire and.
I'm saying the
DPW.
first three and town hall is, definitely important, but, Greg's got
Greg's
all our
already-
meetings and we have every opportunity to.
Yeah.
I mean, they all total up to be important.
But in this context,
But in our experience has been that, those three are the ones that deserve the most focus.
The harbor would be could be with the police. as
Right.
Well, yeah.
I fully agree that we should, I think, team up. I do think you hear a lot.
Yeah.
A lot more useful feedback.
Okay.
Okay. Are we ready to do that tonight or another meeting?
To create the teams? I'm sorry,
Yeah.
I didn't know what that was.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was.
Yeah, I'll create them now.
Okay,
Yeah, I'd like to be part of the DPW team, if that's possible.
Ross.
Yeah, I'm pretty knowledgeable in that stuff, so I volunteered that as well.
You both can tackle that.
Yeah.
Take a break from it. Chuck's tired of seeing my face.
okay. Fire,
Happy to participate in fire.
okay. Do you still want to do fire, Tom? Okay, so Andy and Tom, fire,
I've had a couple of talks with you.
okay. Police,
I'll stay with police if that works.
Mike? You want to do police too, Maureen?
Sure. I'll jump on you.
Who's doing DPW with Dean?
Peter, Peter
Peter.
Twining,
Thank you.
and I'll touch base with Greg on town hall. Okay,
So we should aim for first meetings with these folks. Probably what, Greg, like end of first week in November? Like second week in November?
well, you can meet with them in advance of the joint meetings with Greg if you want.
Maybe we have one meeting before they finalize in early November.
Touch base with them and see what their thoughts are and,
Chief McNeely already asked me.
yeah, okay, yeah. Just to get a sense for what people are looking for.
Mhm.
Okay. Okay, next is for the fiscal year 26 operations, are there areas we want Greg to focus on? Are there areas of concerns? Are there thoughts regarding how services are provided or multitasking? Do we have any thoughts on any of those things? Regionalization.
Yeah, that's what I
I
was, high level regionalization opportunities, right?
I mean, the police chief in Essex is retiring.
Right, yeah, they're about to see a big change in their active volunteer,
Police isn't volunteer, fire is.
I'm sorry, I was thinking fire,
But the police chief is,
he's retired.
he's
Okay,
retiring.
he said police, I heard fire.
I think I said police. Did I say polies?
Oh,
I think we did, yeah.
I'm not saying
Big
it was
article.
you, it was definitely me. Let's see what you said, what you heard.
So Greg, do you think there's an opportunity there, given that knowledge?
So Todd and I have reached out to our counterparts in Essex. I'm not overly optimistic, but the conversations can continue a little bit. But the real challenge is they don't have a second in command, a lieutenant position or a captain position. So that makes it much harder to share a chief without having that position. So if they share a chief, then they will likely feel compelled to hire a second in command, so they're not really gaining that much.
Okay,
And speaking of that, is Todd still,
make sure you speak up so that Gail can hear it on the recording.
okay, is Todd still planning to retire? I mean, I heard that he was gonna do that at some point, but is it gonna be sooner than later?
It's not in this 26 budget, I don't think.
Correct, and if some regional opportunities arose, that would be an incentive for him to stay on longer.
I guess one of the things we should think about is sort of long-term staffing and changes. And it's always better to think about these things a little earlier than last minute. And what the implications are just for the town, like how would we go about, job descriptions, that type of thing. And I'm sure you've got that under control or thought about it, Greg, but.
Right, we're definitely
so
putting more energy into succession planning and we certainly have a number of retirements coming up in the next few years. So yes, there will be a fair amount of turnover because of retirements.
Greg will be gone, so it won't be his problem.
That's what I'm worried about.
Okay, does that give you enough information from us? It's kind of general, Greg.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, as ideas come up into people's minds, I'm all ears. Just remind folks, we are hoping to get our operational audit done on most departments, and with an eye towards, are there efficiencies with IT that we should take advantage of? So that'll get underway in September here, or end of September.
And when will it be done? In time for budget season?
So it'll be done. It probably won't be done finalized until first of the year, but I'm hoping to get at least some preliminary.
Okay.
Yeah, preliminary for it.
Okay.
And then I think I'm going to be losing service here real soon.
Okay.
So if you're, when I get to the house, I should be able to log in again.
Okay. So the next items on the agenda were inadvertently included, and we covered them at the last meeting. That's the water and sewer and the harbor master. So we won't cover those tonight. Next item is the fiscal year 26 long-term capital plan components. Now, one of our goals was to start long-term capital planning.
Can I just respond to this?
And
Yeah, before I lose you, I'll just quickly say that department heads have all submitted long-range capital.
Okay.
Or at least will by this week was the due date. So we're just starting in on all of that now. And I've done a initial swipe at the real big facility needs for the next 40 years and see how it might fit in. And so I am planning to have that material ready for you in October.
okay, great. Thank you.
All right, so that'll do me for now.
Okay, thanks, Greg. That's about all we had.
I was so worried. I saw this huge agenda. I'm like, I saw that too. I'm gonna have to bring my sleeping bag.
Okay, so we have no town administrator financial updates. Because he's gone. Approved minutes. July minutes. Do people have a chance to look at those?
Yeah, good to me.
Jean submitted some comments. So do we have a motion to approve them with Jean's comments?
So moved.
Andy moves. Tom, Peter
I have to abstain.
Okay. Peter seconds. All in favor? And Tom abstains. Okay,
I'm abstaining too, Sarah.
and Mike abstains. Okay. Next is our meeting schedule for the balance of 2024.
Okay, very useful.
Do we need to meet?
Every Wednesday, Mr. Dodd.
Hey, guys.
Yes, we do, Andy.
How do you guys? Checking.
So it seems like we've got that. We've got those reports on the MBTA stuff coming in the end of next week. 13th. So we could meet on the 18th of September? Does that work for people?
Yes,
We could do either the 18th or the 25th,
18 is my preference.
okay?
I can't do the 18th.
We can't do the 18th. How about the 25th?
25th is
How about October 2nd?
October 2nd, I'm getting a new shoulder.
He's gonna be out for the month of October.
We already have a meeting
Two on and up.
for October second,
That's right.
but. Which one?
I think we need to meet in September to go with those reports, don't you think?
Coming along later.
Okay, let's circle back around to September. How many, so who can't do the 18th? Andy,
I could do the 18th if really, if everybody can do it, I can. I'll just do it.
okay. Can you do the 18th, Mike?
Yes.
What about for the 25th? We had more people with problems on the 25th, right?
Okay, here.
Okay.
I can't do the
25th.
25th because I can fly travel.
Was everybody locked into Wednesdays? So,
It's possible I could free up on the 18th. I have a sort of a tentative meeting schedule.
Okay.
I need to check on it.
Let's stick with 9/18. And then we get to October. The 2nd and the 16th.
16th, fine, 2nd's not so good.
Oh,
I thought we had the second plugged in already, but
well,
Back
we
in
could
saddle
do
with
the,
16th.
what?
second was 2 weeks after our last meeting.
finish up that MBTA. So we get the data on the 18th, try to help results on the 2nd. Because he needs it, should need it by mid-October.
So if we meet every other week, that would be 10 to 10/16. 10/30. 11/13. I'll give people off the day before Thanksgiving.
Thoughtful.
12/4.
Second Wednesday of the month, I'm gonna have issues, but you skip over it in October.
And then, so we say 9/18, 10/2, 10/16, 10/30, 11/13, 12/4. And I don't know what we do about the meeting of the joint budget, because I can't do the 18th because of ZBA. Unless we don't have any applications.
Sorry, the second, the 16th, the 30th.
And then November 13th and December 4th. And then we have a joint budget meeting, either it could be the 16th jointly with the select, Monday, the 16th with the select board.
December, November.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry, did we say
Is it
in
December or-
October? We second, 16th and 30th?
Yes,
Yes.
Okay, and then in November, we're talking
November 13th,
13th.
December 4th and 16th.
right. 16th is a Monday.
Is there only one meeting in November?
Yeah. Because we have 3 in October.
I'm
And,
just confirming what I was hearing, that's all.
Yeah, and the 27th is the day before Thanksgiving. So that would be 2 weeks after that.
Okay.
And so therefore, we're meeting December 4th, which is 3 weeks after that, November 13th, and then, yeah,
What's the second meeting in December? Is that the 18th or?
I think it's probably gonna be the 16th,
16th, that'll be the,
Monday joint with the select board.
Yeah.
Cause they meet on the 1st and the 3rd Monday. And I can't do the Wednesday. Well, unless we cancel ZBA this month because no applications, I think our $1,000 fee is helping us.
there we go, serious.
So I have a conflict on the November 13th. Since it's the only meeting of the month, could we move it to the 20th? And that's still 2 weeks from the 4th.
What do people think?
Was it again 20th?
Yeah, the 20th.
November 20th instead of November 13th. We okay?
And then we might be able to give our draft of the budget liaison. First meeting.
I
Okay,
can do the 20th.
Okay.
Yeah.
we'll do, instead of November 13th, we'll do November 20th.
Thanks.
Okay, you okay with that, Mike?
Yep, I was on mute. Yep, that works.
Great, thank you.
So just to hit it once more, so I got September 18, October 2 and 16 and 30.
Yep.
And 11/20 and 12/4. And then the joint meeting of the selectmen 11/16.
12/16.
12/16.
Yeah.
Got it.
And then in 2025, we'll start up our weekly meetings on January 8th. We get a break this year because New Year's is on a Wednesday.
So I'm sorry, was our next meeting September
18th,
18th? Okay. 18th makes
no,
sense.
18th. December 16th. Don't get me confused. Okay. And then we'll have, in 2025, so I have conflicts the 4th Wednesday of the month. Because we've switched our ZBA to the 4th Wednesday.
Okay.
So the question is that week, can we meet on Thursday instead? The 4th Wednesday of the month.
It's like the-
January?
that'd be
Yeah,
like
we're
the
in January.
23rd.
Yeah, we're gonna start our weekly meetings on Wednesday, the 8th. And then the 4th week of the month, I have a conflict with ZBA. I'm wondering if we can meet on Thursday on that week instead. Yeah, I think so.
Is the week of the 20th, you consider the 4th week?
I think so. I gotta
Okay,
check,
okay.
I have to double check with Gail. To be
Which
honest.
week it was.
I'm not sure what
I
our,
can do the 23rd, I can't do the 30th, so
okay,
it makes a difference.
Okay.
So it sounds like 118, 115, 123 potentially, which is a Thursday, and 129, which is the
yeah,
the
Yeah.
last Wednesday of the month.
Yeah.
Okay. Figure out where we can get the different.
Say the January ones again.
1/8, 115, 123, and 129. I'm assuming ZBA is on 122 because that's the 4th Wednesday.
continuing through.
Okay,
And we're into 2/5,
Yeah,
2/12,
2/5,
2/9,
2/12, 2/19, 2/27. And then it would be 3/5, 3/12, 3/19. Hopefully that's it.
Yeah, we may have a little, because of the school meeting or something in there.
Right,
You know,
exactly, yep,
That's one that we try to
yeah.
wiggle to make sure that.
Yeah, I can't remember when the school meets, when the school public hearings are.
It's usually the third, we usually try to do it like the third week in February, the second or third week in February,
Yeah,
before it goes to their whole final
Right.
vote.
maybe 2/12. We'll see. I can't remember what their dates are. Okay. So we're relatively good on that?
Yeah.
Any other business?
Business.
Anything?
I had one for
Yep.
for Chuck. I heard that there was a new criteria with the PFAS. And it was involving the cost of disposal of the used filter. And whether in the long run, we're better off with a higher, doing the ionization treatment that eliminates the waste versus doing the activated carbon, which we have to still dispose of, periodically. And I don't know if it's worth it for this size system to do a quick calc to see what the payoff is, but that has come up across the industry that I've read. So I don't know if that's too technical, but it was a big question I had that I wanted to alert you about. That there's a,
Okay, I see you're on. Do you have any comment on that?
Yeah, I mean, so we did do a LCCA on the different types of media. We're doing the piloting now, and so that'll better inform that decision. I have not. I mean, if you want to forward me the literature that you were reading, I'll take a look, and if it's worth having the consultant, we're not too late. We haven't made any of those like final decisions yet.
right,
So we'll reevaluate it if if that math changes, but I haven't heard that for myself yet.
okay, I'll forward it to you, Chuck.
Okay, great.
Yep, thanks.
Anything else?
I have one I'll throw out there, which I
Sure.
guess Greg not being on, he'd be my target audience, but I just think, given the probability, right, that we're gonna be issuing significant amounts of debt in the, near future, it'd be nice to have some kind of conversation with one of the ratings agencies. I'm guessing we're not a big enough whatever for they're gonna show up in person, but maybe some kind of Zoom, could be set up or something. I'm more familiar with that with the private sector, but I gotta believe conceptually it's the same on the municipal side. And I just think it'd be good to, have one of those ratings agencies, do a walkthrough, 30,000 foot, what would happen if, right? You issued X million more in debt, what would that do to your credit rating? And, just whatever. I've seen it on the private side. I just think it'd be something nice,
Okay, yeah,
Yeah, and the timing effect of that too, Mike. I mean, is it better to do it all at once or in pieces, and how does that affect things?
Right, right. But the sooner the better in terms of talking to the quote unquote experts, right?
Right.
okay. We'll try to get that on an agenda item. Anything else? With that, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Mike, are you in favor of adjourning?
I'm in favor, yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Let me turn that off.
Yeah.
I looked at that long agenda too, and I thought,